One thing you should know is that I am essentially an adult learner. I was just thinking about that this morning because I dropped out of high school when I was 15. But even though I went back to school, got my diploma, I didn't really learn anything.
I didn't really start writing, I think, till I was about 15, 16 years old in a juvenile facility. Somehow this thought came to me that I could write and tell my story, even though I didn't know how to write. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea whether it meant anything. It was more like something that came, I think, from inside, like something very innate to me. It's like I needed to write, to say something that I don't think in any other medium I could have said it. And even though I was on drugs and in the gangs during the days I was a teenager, every once in a while I would go into a library on my own with my khaki pants and my little hat and all my little tattoos that I had at the time, and I would just sit down and read. And I used to have librarians look at me like, what's this kid doing here? Or maybe he's going to rob us. And I would just find books and read. Although I was reading all these books, there was something that was missing. The fantasies were great, but my reality was completely different from that. There didn't seem to be any bridge between what I was reading and what I was going through until I came across those books that appeared like the late 60s, early 70s. And I'm talking about Perry Thomas's Down the Mean Street and Claude Brown's Man, Child, and Promised Land and the autobiography of Malcolm X. These books were like, these are my stories. These are people who are living what I'm living. And they opened me up to a whole new aspect of literature that I hadn't seen before, that now I realize I could be a part of this. And I think I learned that early, which is good, because then I kept striving in spite of all the setbacks, the drugs. Even when I got out of jail the last time, I vowed never to go back. Well, I wrote Always Running for my son Ramiro. It finally happened because when my son came to live with me, 13 years old, he was very resentful, very angry, and was in a lot of trouble. 2 years later, he joined a gang. Then the impulse was, what do I do? I don't want him in the gang. I went through this. I knew what it was going to be about. I saw him very similar to me. So I wrote it with that interest to, I guess you could say, to save my kid, to maybe save a few other kids, if the word save is a proper word, because I don't think anybody can really save anybody, but more like you give them all the materials from which they can save themselves, basically. It's a memoir, a slice of my life that I've picked out, and then I'm going to get into the details of it. Yeah, because if I had told you, came from Mexico when I was 2 years old, went to school, wasn't good in school, joined a gang, got out of a gang, now I'm okay. Would that be an interesting story to you? No. There's no details. It's like, okay, who cares? So the idea is you have to put details. You have to bring it to life. You know, you have to use a lot. And sometimes you think, why did you put this detail? It's totally ridiculous. If you took it out, it wouldn't change anything. But every detail becomes important. That anchors you. It anchors the reader to want to stay in the story, because the detail keeps you going. Okay, and then, so it's important to have two things at play all the time. One is the basic story, and then the details that run through it. The thing was, we went through all this terrible thing. We were homeless as a family for a while, and my mom was like, you know, I'm tired of this stuff. She had 4 kids already. I'm going back to Mexico. That's what sets us up. So she's telling my dad, I'm going back, and my dad says, I'm not going. I'm staying here. I don't care how bad things are here. I ain't never going back to Mexico. That was his attitude. He's going to hang in here. So this is where we're all splitting up. We pull into a parking lot at the Union Station. It's like a point of no return. My father is still making his stand. Mama looks exhausted. We continue to sit in our seats, quiet now as Dad maneuvers into an empty space. Then we work our way out of the car, straightening our coats, gathering up boxes and taped over paper bags, our luggage. Up to this juncture, it's been like being in a storm. So much instability, of dreams achieved and then shattered, of a silence within the walls of my body, of being turned on, beaten, belittled, and pushed aside, forgotten and unimportant. I have no position on the issue before us. To stay in LA, to go, what does it matter? I've been a red hot ball bouncing around from here to there. Anyone can bounce me. Mama, Dad, Rano, schools, streets. I'm a ball, whatever. We are inside the vast cavern of the station. Pews of swirled wood are filled with people. We sit with our bags near us and string tied from the bags to our wrists so nobody can take them without taking us too. My father turns to us, says a faint goodbye, then begins to walk away. No hugs. He doesn't even look at us. Poncho. The name echoes through the waiting area. Poncho. He turns, stares at my mother. The wet of tears covers her face. Mama then says she can't go. She will stay with him in LA. I don't think she's happy about this. But what can a single mother of 4 children do in Mexico? A woman sick all the time with factory work for skills in a land where work is mainly with the soil. What good is it except to starve? Está bien, Dad says as he nears my mother. We will make it, mujer, I know it. But we have to be patient. We have to believe. Mama turns to us and announces we are not leaving. I'm just a ball, bouncing outside, bouncing inside, whatever. In this particular bit of writing, the main idea was a sense of instability. You know, I'm trying to convey this instability, and how could I do it with this one particular incident in which we're not sure whether we're going to go back to Mexico because we're so close to going. We're almost at the train. We're almost getting on the train, and it looks like you're going that way, but then something pulls you back. And then what do you do with that? So I wanted to convey that, and that was the main idea. And then I had to find the right words and images to anchor and bring alive that idea.
And I'm using all these different details to kind of explain how you feel when you're torn and you don't know where you're going to go.
If I had just said I didn't care whether I went or left, nobody would pay attention. But if I brought in all the images of the Union Station, of all these little things that you might think, what does it got to do with the issue? Like having the luggage tied to our hand, that just anchors you. Here's a descriptive piece that could be thrown away and it wouldn't change anything, but you need it just to get the feel of what I'm trying to get at. And that's important, the words and the tears in my mother's face, all these things that kind of put you right there, because I want you to be there so you can know when I say, I'm just a ball, whatever, you actually can feel it yourself. You can say, I know, I've never been to this, or maybe I have, but I feel what this young person is going through.